MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Monday morning. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for getting your day started with us. Happy to see you here. And good morning to Miller over in the Weather Center. Today's not too bad. It was
no, it's not.
The temperature outside actually made me happy.
Well, good. Well, I'll make you even happier today. Would you like to hit 50?
That would be awesome. That would be a nice feeling.
We're going to give it the old college try today.
Okay.
And the reason is we got these really strong winds coming in from the southwest. So we do have some of those warmer temperatures coming in, but unfortunately it's not going to last. And I'll explain why with the main forecast coming up here in just a bit. Right now in Billings at 37. Look at that camera shaking, the Stockman Bank weather cam, because of those gusts of 30. Last clocked here in Billings. We had a gust, I believe, over 60 miles an hour during the overnight, and we're not done yet with that. But as Victoria mentioned, the temperatures out there right now, not bad, in the 30s and 40s. Highs today in the 40s and 50s. Let's crunch some numbers quickly. Yesterday, our high got up to about 44, just a bit above average. Our overnight low down to 23, above average there, too. And there's that gust I was telling you about. As we crossed midnight, we got some really strong gusts out there, and that will be the case as we go along today. It'll try to taper off a little bit later on this afternoon into the evening, and then we've got a cold front coming through tomorrow, and we'll see those winds increase again, not on the scale I don't think of today, but it'll be chasing behind that cold front. Wednesday should be calm, and then we'll see more winds on Thursday. So a lot of windy days ahead and some cooler days ahead. I'll tell you about that with the main forecast coming up here in just a bit. There's your day planner today, trying to get up into the 50s with lots of sunshine later on this afternoon, but have to deal with those windy temperatures on this Woolworths day. Honestly, I can't remember if I ever shopped at a Woolworths when I was a kid.
Variety store, just had different household gear and clothing, and I remember there was like a counter where you could actually order food and eat there too during your busy shopping day. And so this is an old commercial for Dollar Days. Just check it out.
The complete parakeet kit.
Yeah.
Did the parakeet come with it? I don't know.
Ooh, and they accept Discover card too.
Wow.
That's exciting.
So were they like the old school Walmart or something? Is that what they were like? Or maybe not on this big grand scale as Walmart does, but
You're right. Yeah, not as big of a scale. I guess I guess I feel like a Shopko sort of, which are also now out of business. But so it's just interesting how the stores are changing over the years. But it was on this day back in 1879. I believe, 1879, that the first one opened in Utica, New York, and it was a five and dime store. So,
five and dime, boy,
yes.
That's a term you don't hear much
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. You really don't know.
It was cool watching that old school commercial. I like, if you ever go on YouTube, just type in commercials of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You can go back and reminisce. A day of nostalgia, maybe. I don't know.
Right, yeah. And Billings had one, and I was just reading that it closed down. There was, I think, 2 different locations. One closed down in the 80s and the other in the 90s. So it's been a while since they've been around.
It's been a while. Wow, I didn't realize that. I thought maybe just a couple years ago.
No.
I don't do a lot of shopping, as you can tell.
Well, I do. You can ask me anything, and I will give you what I know.
Okay. You're my go-to from now on.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
I'll be your go-to for news, too. How about that?
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, Miller. We begin this Monday with the latest on the COVID-19 pandemic. President Joe Biden's administration is pushing ahead with its plan to get $1,400 stimulus checks into the hands of struggling Americans. The House Budget Committee will take up the nearly $2 trillion bill today, and then it's expected to make its way to the House floor for a vote later in the week. Along with the stimulus checks, there's also an extension of $400 in weekly unemployment benefits. Democrat leaders have vowed to pass the bill ahead of a March 14th deadline when those benefits are set to expire. This week, the U.S. is moving closer to approving a third COVID-19 vaccine. An independent advisory committee for the FDA will be reviewing the Johnson & Johnson vaccine candidate on Friday. In a late-stage global trial, Johnson & Johnson said the shot was 72% effective in the U.S. and slightly less in countries where variants are more common, like South Africa. If approved by the FDA, it would be the country's first single-dose vaccine, and it can also be stored in a normal refrigerator. As the efforts continue to increase the supply of COVID-19 vaccines in the United States, reporter Joe St. George is looking at the growing pressure on the U.S. government to make sure all countries around the world get shots as well.
The pandemic has impacted our lives for nearly a year, but relief appears to be closer than ever.
When is every American who wants it going to be able to get a vaccine?
By the end of July of this year.
Currently, 1.6 million vaccine doses are being administered each day in our country. The United States produces 10 to 15 million each week, but the vaccine supply is expected to increase even more soon. The expectation is that 4.5 million doses will be available each day in the coming months.
Of course, having the vaccine supply is very different than actually getting shots in the arms. The U.S. continues to struggle with the administration of the vaccine, but the country's problems pale in comparison to an emerging global issue. Over 100 countries worldwide haven't received the vaccine at all, and that has the potential to impact the U.S.'s progress, not to mention that international trip you've been waiting to plan.
According to the United Nations, 130 countries haven't received a single dose of the vaccine. 10 countries have administered 75% of the global supply. The United States is one of those 10 countries. This is what the head of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, said last week.
We must ensure that everybody everywhere can be vaccinated as soon as possible. Yet progress on vaccinations has been widely uneven and unfair.
President Biden, for his part, has pledged $2 billion more in recent days to an international campaign to boost vaccine distribution. But to some degree, his hands are tied, many believing the president needs to focus on our country's supply before he can devote greater attention to the global community. In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
The United States is expected to surpass a heartbreaking pandemic milestone today. The death toll from the virus could cross the 500,000 mark. The tally came in at 498,000 yesterday. President Joe Biden plans to mark the 500,000 death toll with a moment of silence and a candle lighting ceremony at the White House. There is now confirmation for the first time that COVID-19 can cause the body to attack itself. A new study shows some symptoms of soreness and joint pain can be prolonged and require lifelong management. Experts say some people may not even know that they have been infected with the virus. Then later on, they go on to develop problems with muscles, nerves, and joints. For some, the chronic condition now requires them to take medication daily. President Biden's pick to be Attorney General Merrick Garland will face U.S. senators in his confirmation hearing today. Garland was former President Obama's 2016 Supreme Court nominee, but his nomination was scuttled by then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Judge Garland will face tough questions from Republican lawmakers on how he intends to lead the Justice Department. CNN's Jessica Schneider has more.
Our law is not the instrument of partisan purpose.
Judge Merrick Garland guaranteed impartiality when he accepted the nomination for Attorney General one day after the Capitol insurrection. But the issues he's expected to face are very political.
We made a mistake.
This week, Senate Republicans demanded Garland commit to fully investigating New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo in what Republicans are calling a cover-up for not reporting all COVID-related nursing home deaths in 2020. The FBI and the U.S. Attorney in Brooklyn have already opened an inquiry, sources tell CNN, and that's not the only probe Republicans will press on.
I'm absolutely calling on a special counsel to look at all things Hunter Biden.
A Republican aide says senators will raise the investigation of the president's son, Hunter Biden, who federal authorities are looking into for possible violations of tax and money laundering laws in business dealings with foreign countries, China in particular. The Department of Justice has already charged more than 220 people in connection with the Capitol attack.
We fight. We fight like hell.
But Garland is expected to face questions about whether to investigate former President Trump for inciting the insurrection and how to broaden the domestic terrorism crackdown, something Garland tackled head-on as a top official at DOJ in 1995 when he was on the ground one day after the Oklahoma City bombing.
From a personal point of view, I wanted to go. I mean, it was a terrible scene on the television.
Garland has acknowledged his personal connection to the Justice Department.
Entering the Department of Justice will be a kind of homecoming for me.
He started his legal career there in the late 1970s and worked as a prosecutor before becoming a top official during the Clinton administration.
I'm very confident that he will look at every case on the merits He will make sure that the department operates seamlessly across different elements.
People who know him say Garland will bring his deliberate demeanor as a judge to a position that has been politicized over the past 4 years by 4 different attorneys general. And he'll have to decide whether to continue defending Trump-era policies in court, something Biden officials have already begun backtracking on. Merrick Garland will likely face intense questions from Republicans on Monday, and he'll have to walk a fine line since he's still technically a sitting judge and has not seen specific details about the cases he'll soon have to confront. I am told Garland's opening statement Monday will focus on the importance of an independent DOJ, the value of integrity, and also how civil rights will be a main priority of the Justice Department. Jessica Schneider, CNN, Washington.
President Biden paid a visit to an old friend over the weekend, former Republican presidential candidate Senator Bob Dole. The 97-year-old recently announced he was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. President Biden has worked closely with Senator Dole on a number of issues over the years, including the National World War II Memorial. Senator Dole will receive his first cancer treatment today. The Federal Aviation Administration is ordering United Airlines to step up its inspections of some Boeing 777s after a near deadly flight over the weekend. Debris rained down over a Colorado town when an engine caught fire. Luckily, no one was injured and the plane landed safely. CBS's Deborah Alfarone has more details.
Mayday, mayday. United Airlines has pulled from service all of its Boeing 777 planes with a certain Pratt & Whitney engine after one exploded shortly after takeoff on Saturday.
The first thing I really thought it was a bomb on the plane.
Just minutes into Flight 328 from Denver to Honolulu, 2 of the engine's fan blades were fractured and the front had come off.
We got to about 10,000 feet. The captain came on and said that we're getting up to our cruising altitude. And before he even got off the intercom, there was a loud explosion.
Many of the 229 passengers on board prepared for the worst.
All I kept thinking is, this couldn't be my time.
The 10-person crew was praised for getting this plane safely back to Denver International Airport.
Initially, I think it was certainly panic, but I think people did a good job of calming down.
On the ground, debris rained down on the terrified residents of Broomfield, Colorado.
It sounded like a war zone around here.
Next thing you know, we heard another big bang and looked out our front window right as the engine cowl rolled into the tree.
Amazingly, no one was injured.
Kind of, a miracle that the plane landed, everybody on the ground safe.
Passengers later boarded a new plane that took them to Hawaii.
Very happy and relieved.
Boeing is now recommending that all its 777 planes using the same type of Pratt & Whitney engine be grounded across the globe. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News.
United is the only U.S. airline with its Pratt & Whitney engine in its fleet. Japan also has some planes. Their aviation bureau has suspended them until an investigation is complete.